In July 2006, Matt Johnson noticed some cows and horses were missing from their farm in West Virginia. He investigated the nearby woods and found an unexplainable being. What followed was a desperate fight for his life. This is a transcript of his interview, in which he recounted his horrifying experience. My name is Matt Johnson. I live in West Virginia in a rather secluded part of the state, so I'm surrounded by trees and wilderness. I have lived here all my life and have heard many stories about Mothman, cryptids, wendigos, and skinwalkers. Being one of the oldest among my siblings, I dismissed these folk tales for years, but I was soon proven wrong. In the following days, I would be terrified, fearing for my life as I was stalked by something supernatural. When I was 17, I was home alone for a good portion of my summer vacation. As it was getting late, I began turning off all the lights in our farmhouse. While doing this, I happened to look out the window toward the tree line. There I saw what looked like a pair of glowing eyes. I took off my glasses, rubbed my eyes, and looked again. It seemed like I was imagining things, but little did I know, I wasn't. That thing would soon become the bane of my existence. The next morning, I woke up and went about my usual routine. I checked the barn, the cattle, and the horses. To my surprise, a few cows were missing. I told myself I must have miscounted the day before, but something else caught my attention. Some of the fencing near the cows was broken. I noticed tracks leading in and out of the pen, but they didn't belong to any animal I recognized. And I know my tracks. I figured it was a mix of cow, coyote, and wolf prints. Out of curiosity, I followed the tracks as far as I could, which led me about 50 feet into the woods. As I ventured into the trees, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. I looked around, but all I saw were trees. I told myself I was just tired and headed back to the farm. I quickly put up some temporary fencing with chicken wire to hold until my family returned. Later that evening, after a rough argument with my girlfriend, I decided to go for a walk to clear my head. I grabbed my phone, plugged in my headphones, and listened to music as I walked deeper into the woods. As night fell, I realized I had wandered too far and couldn't recognize my surroundings. I pulled out my phone and used the flashlight to guide my way back. While making my way back, my flashlight briefly caught something in the trees. It looked similar to what I had seen the night before, but it disappeared before I could get a closer look. Even though I was 17, I was freaked out. I quickened my pace, trying to leave the woods as fast as I could. Suddenly, a loud howling noise pierced through my music. Startled, I paused the music and took out my headphones. The howl came again. It was deep, scratchy, and nothing like a wolf or coyote. It was like someone trying to yell with a sore throat. I froze in my tracks, my heart pounding in my chest. I looked around, shining my flashlight through the trees, but saw nothing. Everything was eerily silent. Then, a twig snapped, just 10 feet away. That was when my fight or flight response kicked in, and I chose flight. I ran as fast as I could, despite not being very athletic. Fear gripped me, and my mind raced. After what felt like hours, I finally saw the edge of the forest and the farmhouse, still lit from the lights I hadn't turned off. As I jumped over the fence, I made the mistake of glancing back. To my horror, I saw a pair of glowing eyes. They were higher than any humans, and they were locked on me. I stumbled backward, tripping as I tried to keep eye contact with whatever it was. It didn't come any closer, stopping just at the tree line, but I could smell it. The stench was putrid, like a mix of rotting flesh and sulfur. I knew I wasn't the only one who saw or smelled the creature because the cows were panicking. After calming them down, I returned to the farmhouse, turned off the lights, and grabbed my binoculars. Looking back toward the tree line, I hoped what I had seen wasn't real. But there it was, those glowing eyes staring back at me. My heart leaped into my throat. I stumbled backward, slammed the door, and locked it. I rushed to my room, grabbed the shotgun from my closet, loaded it, and placed it under my bed for a peace of mind. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw those eyes. Eventually, I must have dozed off because I woke up to the sound of the roosters and my alarm. I went through my routine, but this time I took my shotgun with me. When I reached the broken part of the fence, I noticed the temporary wire I had put up was torn and blood stained the ground, probably from one of the cows it had taken. I still didn't know what I had seen, but I knew I would soon face it again. I ventured into the tree line about 10 feet and yelled, "I do not fear you. You cannot hurt me." My voice was firm, but in response, it let out a blood-curdling screech. I turned and ran back to the farm without looking back, a mistake I would regret that night. As night fell, I locked every door and window, then hid in my room with my shotgun. For about 10 minutes, there was silence. Then I saw it, closer this time, maybe 30 or 40 feet from the farmhouse. I knew it had seen me because we locked eyes. I quickly ducked down, and when I looked again, it was even closer and just 10 or 20 feet away. I opened the window and yelled at it, trying to show I wasn't afraid. It didn't move, just stared. I slammed the window shut, locked it, and pulled the curtains closed. Hours passed, or so it seemed, before I heard a loud banging on the front door. It wasn't just the door. There were noises all around me. Screeches, bangs, and inhuman sounds echoed through the house. Suddenly, every window downstairs shattered at once. In that moment, I thought, this is how I die. What happened next still feels like a dream. I heard animal-like noises coming from downstairs, the same blood-curdling howls and screeches. Then there were hoof steps racing up the stairs. The smell hit me again, that same putrid stench of rotting flesh and eggs left in the sun. I nearly threw up. I covered my mouth, trying to stifle my breathing, but it didn't matter. It had my scent. It found the room I was in. It banged against the door, and I ran to hold it shut, dropping my shotgun in the process. It kept banging and scratching, screaming with the rage. I pushed with all my strength, but then I saw the dresser. I managed to shove it against the door, buying myself a little time, though I knew it wouldn't be enough. With my mind racing and heart pounding, I considered my options. Jump out of the third-story window or fight. I chose to fight. I waited, and when it finally burst through the door, I aimed my shotgun at its grotesque face. It was a horrific mix of human and deer, with antlers about 3 feet long. I pulled the trigger. I racked the shotgun and fired again, over and over. It howled in pain, and eventually it retreated, leaving a trail of blood. I chased it down the stairs, through the hole it had made in my door and into the tree line, firing my pistol at its retreating form. I stopped at the edge of the forest, yelling that I wasn't afraid. It howled one last time, not in anger, but in defeat. As I returned to the farmhouse, the rain began to fall. Strangely, nothing in the house was broken except for the door. When my parents returned the next day, I told them I had caused the hole in the door in a fit of rage. They believed me, and I got yelled at, but I knew I had kept them safe from whatever that creature was. That was 2 years ago, back when I still lived on the farm. I've since moved out and am now attending college, but I stay in touch with my family. I always ask if they've seen any unusual tracks or heard any strange noises. To this day, I wonder if it's still out there, waiting for me to return, seeking revenge for what I did those years ago.
Like and subscribe.